What if this is not merely infatuation? As the second son of an earl, with every material advantage the heart of mortal man could wish for, the sole exception being a fortune of his own, Colonel William Radcliffe was no stranger to feminine attentions. Women naturally flocked to him, wealthy women who asked nothing of him beyond the promise of an evening's quiet company. Women whose affection was as fleeting as his own. Women pursued him. Women wanted him. Women adored him. Women being the operative word. Not that the stunning creature standing opposite him on the dance floor was not a woman in body as well as in spirit. Lady Arabella Middleton. This was her coming-out ball. Men, young and old, were vying for her attention all night. The Colonel's own actions were confirmation of that. He had practically stood in line for a chance to pencil in his name on her dance card. He who waited for no woman. What else could he do? He had never seen anyone like her. He was sure that if he travelled to the ends of the earth, the memory of her would linger with him every step of the way. As their long-awaited dance brought them in and out of each other's arms, it was all William could do not to hold her a moment or two longer, when he could, and long for her during those agonizing seconds they were part. Beware. One does not trifle with the only daughter of a peer. Cautioning words rang out even louder when he found Lady Arabella alone on the balcony. The ever-constant moon high in the night sky had but one purpose that evening: to shine its light on her. Captured in the serenity of the moment, Lady Arabella stared out in the distance, the hum of the musicians and gaiety of the society's finest, seemingly miles and miles away. Dare he wish the young lady's private thoughts were of him? Beware, he told himself again as he strode up to her with his hand poised in mid-air, reaching out to touch her bare shoulder. Beware, his heart screamed the very instant she turned, and instead of touching her shoulder, he caressed her chin. There are lines, so many lines. There was a line between lust and love and infatuation, and the dangerous line between decorum and impropriety upon which he was treading. There was the thin line between liking and loving, and most daunting of all for a man like him, the inexplicable line between wanting and needing. He had been crossing lines all his life. Why would that night be any different? What if this was not lust? What if this was not infatuation? Nor merely liking? Nor merely wanting? What else could it be? Only fools fall in love. They were standing much too close to each other. The many reasons for him not to be alone with her crept into William's mind. Her striking beauty, her light and pleasing figure, her long lashes. Beware. Only fools fall in love. Lowering her eyes, she swept her tongue across her parted lips, a silent beckoning. If he followed his foolish heart to where he feared it might lead him, life as he knew it, that of a devil-may-care aristocrat with scarcely a concern, would never be the same. There is something to be said about change, is there not? Thus resolved, he moistened his lips, closed his eyes, and leaned in.
What if this is not merely infatuation? As the only daughter of a peer, Lady Arabella Middleton had grown accustomed to the attentions lavished upon her by eligible gentlemen in want of advantageous alliances. Yet tonight, at her coming-out ball, in a grand ballroom filled with admirers, her gaze wandered to but one face, the dignified Colonel William Radcliffe. She knew of him by reputation, the second son of an earl, handsome and polished, but worldly enough to have left a string of adoring women in his wake. And now he watched her from across the room, his gaze so intent it sent a ripple through her chest. Amid the bright lights and laughter, Arabella felt as if she stood alone in the glow of his attention, uncertain whether to bask in it or retreat. His intense focus unsettled her, his dark eyes studying her with a quiet confidence that seemed to speak to something deeper, something unbidden. She was no stranger to admiration, yet this was different. His presence, even from across the room, made her feel strangely vulnerable, as though he could see past her polite smiles and graceful curtsies, past the carefully constructed poise expected of her. Never before had one held her gaze with such steady resolve, as though every other presence faded into irrelevance, nor had any made her heart beat with such reckless disregard for society's expectations. Even now, as he approached, her pulse quickened, anticipation flaring with each slow, measured step he took. Her breath caught when, at last, his name, having found its way onto her dance card, brought him opposite her, and she found herself moving in time with him, close, then apart, the space between them an exquisite ache. His hand, warm and steady against her own, felt like a silent promise. He spoke not a word. His commanding presence said it all. "Beware!" she told herself, echoing the warnings that had been instilled in her. And yet, the caution she had relied upon her whole life fell away as, later, she found herself stepping out onto the balcony for a breath of air, only to sense his presence close behind. The night was cool, the air filled with the scent of jasmine and faint music from the ballroom. Yet her thoughts lingered only on him, standing just a few steps away. His warmth, though he had not yet touched her, enveloped her like a quiet promise. She knew she should hasten away, return to the ballroom, and let propriety carry the moment, yet her heart remained tethered to his nearness. Was he thinking of her as she thought of him? Dare she hope? Did he feel this strange, powerful pull between them? Or was she merely the next young lady to capture his fleeting fancy? Dare she wish to be anything more than just another face in his well-travelled life? She felt his presence draw nearer, her pulse quickening again, but this time she refused to heed the voice of caution. She turned to face him just as he reached out, his fingers brushing her chin, a touch so gentle that it felt both forbidden and fated. She felt as if she'd crossed some invisible line, one that separated safety from desire, sense from abandon. There are boundaries, she knew, boundaries that all young ladies of breeding were expected to keep, boundaries she had never once considered crossing, until now. But what if she wanted more than admiration from a man such as him? What if this pull between them was not an illusion, not simply a harmless thrill of her coming-out season? Her heart swayed between yearning and restraint, between the young woman who had always done what was expected and the one who, for once, wanted to follow her desires. As he leaned in, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath, she lowered her eyes, daring fate to lead her forward. If he crossed this line, if she let him, everything in her life would change. And somehow, tonight, change felt more like destiny than risk. Whatever is happening between us is surely meant to be. Thank you for listening to Beware, written by P.O. Dixon, narrated by Frederick and Anna, professional cloned voice narrators. Copyright 2024, P.O. Dixon, all rights reserved. Want to hear more of Colonel Radcliffe and Lady Middleton's story? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on future releases.